Hello, welcome back. In today's video, we're diving into the Vendor Relations application, a super useful tool to manage all your supplier interactions in one place. Whether you're onboarding new vendors or just reviewing existing ones, this app makes it all streamlined. Let's get started by opening the Vendor Relations app. As soon as we open it, we can see a list of already created vendors. Now let's try adding a new vendor by clicking the Add button. We're going to add a vendor ID and vendor named Riyadh Spares Company. Remember, the vendor ID and vendor name both need to be unique. Next, we'll choose the category, does this vendor provide materials, services, or manpower? In our case, they supply material, so we'll select that. Then, we select the supply group. Basically, this helps classify vendors based on what kind of materials they usually supply. You can customize this list, but we're using a default group for now. You'll also need to mention whether this vendor is local or overseas. Since our example vendor is local, we don't need to select a currency. If they were overseas, we'd pick the correct currency too. Now let's fill in the contact details, like Abdul Rahman, who is our contact person. We'll add his phone number, email address, and his position. He's the sales manager. Next, we add the vendor city, which in this case is Riyadh. We'll also add the website, just a placeholder like www.vendor.com for now. Now, let's talk about taxes. If any indirect tax like VAT or GST applies, mark it as applicable and fill in the tax registration number. We'll also choose a tax circle if required. For instance, some countries divide taxes between central and state levels. For our vendor, we will choose VAT KSA. We'll define credit days, let's say 30 days, and set a credit limit. We'll go with 300,000. You can also add a communication address and any remarks if needed. Once everything is filled in, just hit the OK button to save the vendor. Now that the vendor is set up, it's time to define the vendor item details. This means linking what items they supply. While this step isn't mandatory, it helps streamline things during purchasing or creating orders. We'll search for an item, say SP for spare parts, and pick one. Here, we'll also enter the vendor part number, if it's different from yours. Then, add the delivery time, say 7 days, and the price, or the last quoted price. You can even include a reference number, like a quotation number, for clarity. Batch tracking is optional and only required for barcoded items. We'll skip that here. If there are any technical specifications from the vendor's side, you can enter them, but we're good for now, so we'll hit save. And that's it. We've successfully created a new vendor and linked their item details. Next, we'll go ahead and add a few more items. So far, we've successfully created a vendor and mapped specific items to this vendor under the Vendor Item Details section. And with that, our vendor setup is complete. This is how we establish and manage effective vendor relationships within the system. As you begin making purchases from this vendor, the system will automatically gather data and display insightful purchasing trends like pricing history and patterns through clear graphical reports. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.